welcome, Sabrina, welcome, Naz, to the stage and to the limelight. You're, mashallah, leaders of our society, and you're going to take this whole program forward in Pakistan and being the ambassadors of who you really are. How did you feel about the amazing talks? Maybe, Naz, what kya feeling aapki?
So, thank you, Ismail, and it's great to be here, and thank you to Engro as well for getting such inspiring people to speak. I think it's fabulous, and it's really heartwarming, and it touches your heart when you hear stories. And I completely agree with you, Rabia, if you walk away with something and you just start thinking, and Musarat Appa said the same thing, just as long as you start thinking and you walk away with something, it's something to ponder. When we move aside from our normal day-to-day life and think that there's so much else to consider. So great to be here.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sabrina, how did you feel? Maybe a quick comment from yourself as well. Kaisa laga aapko?
I've been a fan of Rabia's work for quite some time. She knows this, and Musarat Appa I've known for many years as well, because from Lahore. So I've been following their work, so it wasn't something new, but it's always wonderful to speak, or hear them speak, of course.
Yes. Thank you for that. Naz, let me start with you, the first question, and I'll just go around. What do you think are the barriers that are keeping Pakistani women and girls from being fully active in society, in their homes, in the economy? Maybe just share a couple of minutes on what you think.
So I think it would be, I'd probably take this opportunity to just put down some statistics, Ismail. I think, and we may be familiar with them, but it's important to know that Pakistani women have one of the lowest female labor force participation rates in this region, in South Asia, at 22%. That's the first statistic. Secondly, I think we all know that in terms of the global gender gap index, Pakistan ranks abysmally low at 145 out of 146 countries. I mean, that's just, I don't even know what to say. And at the current rates that we are closing this gender gap, it's going to take over a century. It's going to take 132 years to close this gender gap and bring about and achieve parity. And if I was to break that down further, 40 years to bring parity at the national parliaments, 140 years to bring women into positions of leadership and power in terms of parity, and almost 3 centuries when it comes to legal rights for women. So if we continue at the same pace, so clearly a lot of aggressive action is required. So I just wanted to put those statistics there. In terms of what is stopping them, there are several barriers. Cultural, religious, I think, biological, I think just the mindset. There are just so many barriers one can speak about, because I think when we talk about ourselves, and it was mentioned, yes, we are very privileged, alhamdulillah, but the rest of the Pakistani women, when you see the kind of mindsets that they face, do they have decision making at their dining table? Do they have that right? They don't. Do they have access to education, access to food, access to healthcare, mobility restriction? They're just, so, one can go on and on. These are just to name a few. So.
Thank you so much. Sabrina, aapki taraf se you want to add something to
that? When you talk about barriers, I think there's one major barrier, and it's around us. We don't have, women are not, they're not, you can't see them in public spaces. They're completely absent. And the fact that when you go out, either you leave in your car, so that becomes your bubble. Otherwise, you will not see women in your public spaces. And that's exactly it, accessibility and mobility. We don't have access to healthcare, we don't have access to our parks, we don't have access to education, we don't have access to the law, we don't have access to anything you can think of. We don't have access to our own bodies sometimes. Like we are not allowed to make decisions as women. And I'm not just saying this, of course, depending on where you're born, right? Your accessibility or your decision-making and autonomy becomes less and less. And we are all very lucky to be in a space like this where there is a lot more than the rest. But even we feel constrictions to what we can do. I can't walk out on the street right now. I can't even, if I try and I have done this, crossed over to Aga Khan, you should see how many people look at you and what happens. It doesn't matter what you look like, what you wear, what it is. The fact is, each one of us suffers this. We cannot go to a market, right, without having to wonder who's looking at us, who's taking a picture, who's going to put it on what. Do they have no sense of consent? Nothing. Till now, I think in 2017 they changed it. Till 2017, you couldn't even make your own passport by yourself. You needed your husband or father's permission. This is the level of our barriers to everything. So that's really where it is.
So this leads me into the second question. I think, Sabrina, I'll stay with you, is how can collective activism, we need to work together to try and chip away at this monster that we have in front of us. How can collective activism result in sort of giving us the momentum to try and change?
So,
any
sir,
thoughts?
we have women's marches, we have lots of women coming out, and now that's become so political and dirty. And it's very sad that every time women press forward with their problems or what issues they face in society, it's always hit back by other people, not just men, but women also. You're ghair Islami, you're this, you're that. For every reason, they hit back. And you're not asking for things that are different. You're not asking for better anything. You're asking for equity, right? But so I feel like the cultural activism can work in different ways. So instead of saying, okay, I'm going to go stand up and protest here, and I'm going to do this here and all of that, which I think is very difficult to do, and not all of us are made that way. But we can make our own little differences.
Sure.
So cultural activism more at a personal level, how you support your family, how you support your friends, how you support men and women in your own space to be able to do better and to have mutual respect and help each other.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That actually is similar to the conversation we were having earlier, Naz, around having allies. So how can allyship, I think that's the word that you were phrasing earlier, how can allyship help you in forging gender equity, and of course bringing women forward in all walks of life, whether it's economic or social or of course even political for that matter? How can allyship, which is really where she's leading from?
Right. So it's extremely important, and I'll share a personal story. You know, when I joined the workforce, and I don't want to say when, because that'll give my age away, but when I joined, the company that I joined had no women. There were no women. Forget about the executive level, at any level, even secretarial level, any level. And I was the first female to join, and they told me to join a few days later because there was no female washroom. So they had to build a washroom because the thinking was that you don't want to have women work over there because it just gets very complicated. You know, when I joined, eventually, the men were spoken to in that office that agar ye देर तक बैठेंगी तो आप में से कोई उनको घर नहीं छोड़ेगा, आपकी जो कंपनी की गाड़ी है वो इनको छोड़ने जाएगी. So that was at that point in time when I would go for meetings with any of my colleagues. So they would say, this is my colleague Naz, and from across the table it would be like, आपकी secretary. You know, that's what I would. So they said, no, this is our colleague. So that was the time. So the only way, with that same company, I ended up staying with them for about 18 years. And by the end of that, I was a CEO of one of their companies. And the only way that could have happened is because it was predominantly male, is because you had male allies at that point in time. It could never have happened. And moving forward from there as well, even at Engro at that point in time. So every step of the way, unless you have had male allies and female allies, and I say male specifically because at least through most of my career, it has been predominantly male. There are many more women now, but that is the only way that can happen. It's extremely important.
Right. We were talking about allyship, right? To come together as a society, as a group. I know this group probably all believes in this, so we are here, but there's many other people that are not there. Aap bataiye, what is in your view that we can do to bring people together in this cause? How do you build the model?
I think we all face this. There's a lot more that we'd be able to do if we weren't scared, right? And that fear is there. So scared, right? This fear, because लड़की बाहर जाएगी तो क्या करेंगे, कपड़े क्या पहने हुए, कितने बजे आओगी, कितने बजे जाओगे. Now, I know that I will do this. Well, I don't have a daughter, but I would have done this to my daughter. Why would I have done this? Why wouldn't I let her go out? It's not because I don't want her to, but because I'm fearful of what's happening outside, right? And we are all conditioned to follow those mores of society. Ki bhai, don't go here, don't go there, come back at this time, don't go sit there, this is not a good area, don't go in the back streets, who are you taking in the car, who's going to drop you home? We are all facing this. Even as an adult, I'm facing this. And I presume that I would do this to my child as well, because if she's a girl. We need to really self-think as to what it is we're doing, because that fear and that same questioning is going down generations. At some point, we need more spaces for women. We need to find those spaces, and we need to really, really open them up. We need to get back our spaces. We should be able to go to a concert. We should be able to go to Karachi eat. We should be able to go to the markets. We should be able to walk on the streets. These are things people do all over the world. I understand that with the situation it is, but at some point we need to start helping each other out, and it's hard to do, to find those spaces where women can be and utilize those spaces and find more spaces and demand more spaces, because nothing works like economics, and find those spaces where women can have their own, are comfortable and are able to just be women, just be normal, you know. And I feel like that is possible. We've done it at the Science Center, we've done it at TDF Ghar. Women come there, they come in jeans, they come covered, they come whichever way they want, they're jumping on slides, they're running around, and women need to do that. They just need to have places where they, not just shopping malls and eateries, but spaces, whether it's parks or whatever, where they can just express themselves.
Excellent, great. Naz, I'm sure you got some views on that.
No, I mean, I absolutely agree with Sabrina, but I mean, how do we change this? And I think one of the most important things that is going to change it is economic opportunity for women. And I think going forward, the socioeconomic conditions are going to be such that you are not going to have single income households. You will have to have dual income households if you are able to, if you want to be able to afford the kind of lifestyle you had, if you want to be able to give your kids the education that you want. And the minute the woman enters the workforce, that starts changing the dynamic at home. So all those things that, let's say, a man is not willing to do today, but for a better life, you are willing to do that. You're willing to chip in at home. You're willing to chip in for household chores. You're willing to, sort of work with the children as well and help raise the children and contribute much more. So I think it's the socioeconomic conditions that are going to do that. And what we have to do, what the corporates have to do, is to then provide that and to enable these women to be able to enter the workforce, which means that you need to provide those platforms or the ability to sort of make sure that you give women the opportunities. Make sure that in your hiring, you sort of aggressively go out and hire women. I was talking to, I think JP was just mentioning on the GT drive that there are so many more women engineers. I mean, that's fantastic. You know, so that's what you want to see, that kind of action, and that's what will help change things.
It's about exposure. You know, women have disappeared from our public spaces. And you know, now they're saying, oh, हमने pink bus शुरू किया just औरतों के लिए. But segregate कर लो, नहीं बात करो औरतों से. If you don't know what women are, if they have no voice, they're hidden in little places, 50% of your population doesn't exist in the public. How do they get that exposure that these men have, जो रोडों पे फिरते हैं, जो जाते खाने पीने के लिए, जो क्रिकेट खेलते हैं रोडों पे, जो उनके अंदर फ्रीडम जो है, जो हमारे सब ऐसे ना ऐसे बैठी होती हैं औरतें. And you know, they're becoming more and more, I find there's more mental issues, more teenagers are becoming more afflicted, you know, like they've, and especially now with technology, they take pictures of girls, they make them viral, vile things are said about them. Why do we condone these things? Like, what is this about Harim Shah and her pictures on it? Why are we watching this? It's so uncivilized what you do to women. Now, it's violating the home, it's violating everything.
Their privacy and their private spaces, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you both have raised a few excellent points. I think we all need to change. I think we all think we're already there, but we're also struggling and we're also making those changes. And every day we see new things. And the fact that we've got such a nice crowd here as well today, these are the ambassadors. So thank you all for coming tonight. I think this is incredible. Give yourself a clap because, you know, everybody's busy, but to take out your time for a conversation like this, to give the exposure it deserves, I think this is fantastic. And thank you so much.
But before we head off,
yeah.
Let me ask you, Ismail. So what do you think needs to be done?
I truly believe that we have missed the boat. We've got such a huge part of our people that are not contributing to the well-being of the society. And I'm not just talking about monetary or fiscal. I'm talking about just the well-being evolution of our society. Okay, if you, alhamdulillah, I've had a chance to be around a little bit in Asia, and I'll tell you, the women in Asia are incredible. JP, you and I have been to China. We've seen the Chinese. I would rather go to a lady to get my job done than the guy sitting next to him. I'll be honest with you. And that's true for a lot of Asian sites as well. The West is a bit more balanced, but I think in Asia, you see the women more ahead. Hum piche reh gaye, unfortunately. But these are fantastic topics. And I think on EVTL in particular, I do want to mention that, JP, in your time and in Yusuf's time, we started the Uran project. And I'm not sure how many people have known what the Uran project is. It's about 17 girls that were brought out of their homes, from their homes near Port Qasim area. We brought them over. These were girls who had done their metrics, their inters, their BComs. Some of them had their engineering degrees as well. We brought them out against the original wishes of the family. These people in EVTL, in your times, went out to the families and explained to them what it would mean if they could come over for a year and do an internship with us, just like the GTE program that JP is talking. So these are the kind of initiatives there. And I think we've got here a couple of people. I would love to recognize them. Rizwana, are you here? Rizwana, can you please stand up? There you are. Riva, I know Uzma is not here. Who else is here? I mean, here's a team that has done an incredible piece of work. So please continue to do that. Thank you for that. Please have a seat. So what do I feel? I honestly feel that we have to educate, we have to be comfortable with this. We have to share it. We have to be showing, walk the talk. And again, hum log to sab samajh lenge. It's the next circle around us that needs to be educated. So you can cross the road without panic, and you can go where you want. Really, honestly, I think this is something that is really crucial for us. So I certainly hope that this is a great program. So please please continue doing these, and I'm sure you are, Amber, and then the group. So so I think we have very short time. So let's end it here. Thank you so much.